Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for attending our presentation today. We are Apex Construction, representing FIU. And before we get into the bulk of our presentation, we just want to say thank you very much for letting us participate in such a great event. It's been 6 weeks in the making, going through step 1, step 2, and step 3. It's just been an amazing process. And me and my teammates are very thankful for that. Talking about teammates, I want to introduce the group and who we are. My name is Sebastian Eizaguirre. I'll be the general superintendent for the project. At my left is Jesus Anaya, who will be covering 2 positions today. He's normally a safety manager, but he'll be talking about quality control as well. At my very left is Anthony Simon, who is the lead estimator for the project. And at my right, we have Christopher Perez, who's the project manager for this project. Now, before we get into the bulk of the presentation, I just want to give you some facts of what Apex is and what we do. We have a 0.78 EMR rating, which is very favorable amongst many owners and insurance companies as well. We've done hundreds of projects all around the southeast of the United States, and with more than 30 years of experience, which is definitely going to be a great plus for the project we want to build in today in Orlando. And to give you a little bit more background of what Apex is and why we're such a good fit for this project, Christopher Perez will talk about our relevant experiences that have good idiosyncrasies with the project today. Chris?
Thank you, Sebastian. So here at Apex, we have a lot of experience working on similar structures like the LHPS building. One of the ones I want to go over is the OC building. The structure is similar in that is a structural steel, as well as the glazing around the building. And we're working with them, with the school, being able to coordinate with them and mitigating risk in terms of weather. In South Florida or in Kissimmee, Florida, the weather is a very stringent problem that can solve a problem on our construction site. The next one I want to go over is the Gulliver Academy. It's similar in structure steel as well as in square footage, 80,000 square feet. The exterior facade is mainly glazing, storefront system, curtain wall systems as well. And we will be self-performing the CMU and the concrete. And we'll go over the percentages a little bit later on with our lead estimator. But for now, let me go over and pass it on to our safety manager, Jesus Anaya.
Thank you, Chris. So here at Apex, we have a EMR rating of 0.78, like Sebastian stated earlier. And I would like to give thanks to the ABC STEP program that we've been able to hold a 0.78 EMR. Reason is because it has definitely helped us measure our safety presentations and update our safety procedures. Now I'd like to dive in a little bit more to our additional hazards and this project. So first up, we're going with crane and hoisting. We do know there's going to be a lot of hoisting material throughout this project, especially with the steel erection. We're definitely going to make sure we have a control access zone around the cranes to prevent anybody from trespassing. Next, I'd like to talk more about public protection. We do know that we are working inside a school and there will be children and staff around us. So we make sure we have a temporary fencing and barricades around our project to make sure there's no trespassing going on and just keep everybody safe. We will also have a site security outside monitoring, make sure nothing, like I said before, is trespassing. And next, dust and silica exposure. We know how dangerous silica can be, and especially around the students. So we will be having dust control methods to prevent the spread of dust and silica. Next, I'd like to dive into my AHAs. I have provided a 3D animation of our AHAs. First off, starting with our elevated concrete slab. As you can see in the 3D image, are the workmen who are working near the edge of the building. They have their PPE equipment and they have their harness. Next, I would like to dive into the glazing installation. In this project, we will be installing glazing with a mini crane. So as you can see, they're also wearing the PPE equipment and harness when working near the edge. There also is temporary railings around the building. Next, I'd like to dive into the metal wall panel installation. Before any hoisting is taking place, a qualified rigger will have to make sure that the hooks aren't damaged. Next, for steel erection, the same procedure. And of course, making sure that our workmen are wearing the proper PPE equipment throughout the duration of the project. Now I'd like to pass it on to Sebastian, our General Superintendent.
Hello again. I'll be talking about the project management plan that we've made up. And first of all, I want to start talking about site utilization. For the first phase of the project, we decided that the best thing to do was divide the site utilizations into 3 phases, like you see at the bottom table right there. And for the second phase of the project, we also have 1 site utilization plan prepared, but that's going to be for the demo and parking improvements. Next up, I want to talk about a schedule summary, and I want to pull up on the screen. For our scheduled timeline, we're looking at approximately 14 months to TCO for the first phase of the project, and 50 months to CO. Still for the first phase. Then we're looking at a 6-month increment to the second phase of the project, including demolition, abatement, and also the parking expansion improvements that we want to see. And this is the revised schedule that I want to show you guys. We can see demolition and parking expansion into the completion of phase 2, which is going to be from August to February of 2025. And after that, I want to take a step back and go straight into phase 1 again, so we can show you a video of how we plan on building the LHPS Innovation Center. On our schedule, you see that our critical path shows that the building pad is going to be a very important and critical step in the construction of this project. So we're going to go straight into building the building pad. Then we're going to do foundations from east to west. Our intention is to start building the CMU cores as soon as possible, because we know that's one thing that's going to hold the steel erection of the project. So we know that's going to be some things that we got to do first. After that, we want to do foundation work so we can get those steel columns up as soon as possible. And after that, while we're reaching the very top of the structure, we're also going to be starting the metal decking at the bottom, as you can see right there, and already pouring the elevated slabs at the same time. After that, we intend to start MEP work, and also, let's talk about the exterior envelope. Now, the exterior envelope, we want to build it in the next way. We're going to start on the north side. We're going to do the cold form metal framing, so we already know where the exterior glazing and metal panels go. We'll go exterior glazing from north to the east side, to the south side, to the west side. The metal panels are going to follow the same pattern, and we'll do that floor by floor, so we can close out every floor faster and start doing interior finishes as quickly as possible, because from our experience, we know that's one of the things that's going to hold up the project, in any project really. And after that, we have all the miscellaneous work on the outside and the canopy, which looks pretty nice. I hope you enjoyed the video too. And now I'm going to pass it on to Jesus Anaya, who's going to talk about quality control on the project. Jesus.
So here on our screen, you can see our quality control management team. We have our director of operations. Underneath our director of operations, we have our project manager and our general superintendent. Then we have another branch underneath our general superintendent of the field engineer. On the right-hand side, you have Director of Sustainability, and our quality manager falls underneath our Director of Operations. Sustainability, sorry. So for quality, it's definitely a big concern in our project. We would definitely be having our subcontractors document the materials they'll be utilizing. Our quality manager will be going over the documents, making sure it meets the specs that are required for it. For commissioning, we will make sure that everything is done in an efficient manner and the proper testing is being provided. We will be using Proker to track down our documentations of the proper inspection forms and ONT manuals. We will also be using Pipe for the closeout documentations. Now I'd like to pass it on to our lead estimator, Anthony Simon.
Thank you. I'll take it from there. So as you can see on the screen, on the left side, this is our initial bid price for this project, which is about $25.3 million. And on the right side is the revised cost with the addition of the demolition and the parking, which is about $27.2 million. As you can see here, as mentioned earlier, we're going to be self-performing concrete and masonry, which is about 12% of the cost of work. As you can see here, this is the breakdown of the most important scopes, and as you can see, the MEP is going to be our biggest scope, which comes about 27.3%, and the structure about 25% of the cost of work. And our GCs are going to be about 9% of our total, of our cost of work. And at Apex, we want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to respond to this RFI, and would like to leave the floor for some questions.
Well, thank you very much for the good presentation and the thorough information, particularly on the sequencing and the confidence that you guys have a well thought out plan. To kick off a few questions by our selection board this afternoon, I wanted to first ask about cost escalation, being keenly aware of the market conditions in today's time. How have you taken cost escalations into consideration that you feel confident in your value? And what conversations have you had with your key trade partners to make sure that they're in that same position?
Definitely. So that requires a lot of coordination beforehand, because many subcontractors today and suppliers are not keeping their prices for about 30 days. And after that, the bid expires and they put the escalation costs on you, correct? And what we want to do is, as seen on our schedule, we want to issue the LOIs as soon as possible for the major trades so that we have that price locked in. And that's basically our plan for that. And after that, we also want to dive into the submittal process, which with help from the AOR, hopefully that will be reviewed quickly so that there's no other discussions in place, and then we can continue on the fabrication and delivery of the most important scopes of work, which is definitely going to be MEPs. I know electrical increases a lot over time, and also concrete is a problem, structural steel. So all of those we want to do at the very beginning of the project, so that you guys don't suffer a cost escalation problem in the future as well. So we're very confident in that.
As the owners and key stakeholders, what do you expect from us to help you reach those milestones and ultimately turn the project over on time?
Definitely. That's more, so Christopher Perez talked about the experience we've had with working with private schools in Miami, with Gulliver Preparatory Schools, and it mostly comes out of coordination between the AOR and also the owner. And we just expect to have clear routes of communication. If there's any problems that you guys have that you want to communicate to us, great. We'll work with you to try and help find a very viable solution that doesn't affect the end goal of the CEO of the project.
I got a question. I was taking a look at your site ute plan, and I had noticed that I didn't see anything for contractor parking. What's your guys' plan for your parking for all your contractors and the safety associated with that on how they're going to get to campus, during an active time of school and students being around? If you can expand on that.
Got you. Okay, so first I'm going to talk about contractor parking. As was mentioned on one of the RFIs that we received, I'm sorry, I can't remember if it was first round or second round, but it was mentioned that the owner will help us locate a parking within 1 mile of the project. We have located that parking where our subcontractors agreed that it was okay to let them park there as long as we provide the shuttles and going back and forth from the project. Another thing we've also learned from past experiences working with private schools is that the pickup and drop-off times are very delicate, right? Because the last thing you want to do is interrupt people picking up their kids. Then it becomes a whole hassle because they talk to administration and they're, it's a lot of that. So on our site utilization plan, we have a special note on deliveries, but that also applies to parking. Anything that is related to traffic that is going into the school, that has to be coordinated directly with management in order to avoid that problem, which is what we were talking about with coordination and our efforts on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey guys, you specifically stated on your safety slide earlier that it was either 6 or 8 points of focus with regards to safety on this project, and you specifically stated silica and dust exposure. How do you guys actually plan on controlling that?
Yeah, so the way we plan on controlling it is we're definitely going to have dust nets around the perimeter of the building. That way it can prevent it from expanding to the existing buildings. Workers will definitely have to wear proper RPE equipment, mask when working. We will also have air water truck constantly wetting the roads, the dirt roads, so that dust and air won't constantly spread out. Our subcontractors, when working, they will have to be using on-tool extraction on their tools, and also wet cutting methods to prevent the dust from escalating.
I was looking at your site utilization plan, and on that 4D model that you guys put together, as that building starts to enclose, what is your plan for getting material into the building to do the interior finishes?
Got you. So when we were talking about the exterior glazing, when we were talking about exterior glazing, we showed a diagram on the safety plan that shows it being installed from the interior. So for the south and west side, which is particularly hard to get in, we're going to use a mini crane that already places the exterior glazing there, but that material is already going to be staged inside the building. On the second floor, third floor, fourth floor, the idea is to already have all of that material laid around, so it's very easy to just put in the window with a mini crane.
Right, and we'll be using that as like a temporary staging area, right? We're not gonna have all our material all in the building, right? Because there's a lot of, parties in there at the same time. So we're gonna utilize, different machines to get, for example, the CMUs. I don't know if you noticed, but we're not using a buck hoist. We're gonna be using scaffolding, and we're gonna put the CMU blocks on top of the scaffold, and then with that, the workers are gonna be able to stack or lay the CMUs in a timely manner.
So as you're working your way around the different elevations with your cold form metal framing and getting ready for your curtain wall installation, do you have a temporary partition plan? So, on the elevations that you're not actively installing curtain wall, there's some weather protection and maybe an opportunity to start some of the interior build out sooner before curtain wall gets there?
Definitely. The intention is to do, since MEP risers don't require that full curtain wall installed yet, mostly any MEP roughs, the intention is to start that as soon as we start reaching the top of the structure. So you saw that the metal decking was going up, and then we pour the concrete slab. There's a little bit of coordination that goes with pouring the concrete slab, having those holes open in the metal decking so that the MEP risers can go up. So if they start around the same time, that's perfect because we can coordinate exactly where we intend to have the MEP risers go up. So yes, it does the MEP risers interior kind of build-up does start around that time.
And then a quick follow-up, what's your anticipated block crew size?
Anticipated?
CMU crew size, CMU.
Oh, that's 3 times.
In terms of how many workers we'll have on there, we'll have about 5 to 10, 5 to 10 laborers. We'll have start them on the east side, on the east core, and then we're working our way to the west core.
So I noticed that you are pouring your slab on grade after you've topped out with steel. Do you think there's any schedule savings or opportunity for schedule savings if you pour your slab on grade earlier?
Yes and no. The intention to do the slab on grade after we reach the top of the steel deck is we do that last because we want to start coordination of the MEP risers as soon as the concrete slabs on the second, third, and fourth floor are already poured. So we left that to last because it also kind of damages the concrete slab if we start doing any work there. So we don't want to risk that when it comes to installation of flooring as well or any other things. And yeah, I think that would actually help us save time too in the long run if we do it at the last.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
With this glass being installed from inside the building and this being a steel structure, have you all looked at floor loading and the ability for the structure to take that load? And if so, do you have reshoring plans to support that if needed?
Yeah, so the reshoring, the metal deck already provides, and this was discussed with the structural engineer, this would be discussed with someone we consulted. The idea is to have enough exterior glazing so that it doesn't bend or damage any of the metal deck or concrete slab that we have on each floor. If we space it well enough, each exterior glazing weighs about 200 pounds, a little bit more or less. If we space that out with the plan we have in mind, then there shouldn't be any damage on the metal deck or the concrete slab for that matter.
I would like to add to that we would also be using a Brandon 6 mini crane to install these glazing inside. And yes, we checked the specs and it does fit the capacity to hold this weight.
Thank you.
Anthony,
Yes.
question regarding the budget. Obviously, fiscally concerned and everything, and want to save as much money as possible. If you could give me your top priority of value engineering you think that would be good for us to entertain, what would that be?
So the top value that I have right now on the top of my head, maybe flooring. We could maybe go lower on the quality and then offer you a better price for your money.
Or even the metal interior metal panels, if you want to consider replacing it maybe with a different material, perhaps some type of drywall, right? That's something that we can do as well, and to save you money and make sure that we don't go over budget.
Thank you.
So this project is obviously very important to our community, our staff, our families, but more importantly to the students. And construction sites are very intriguing, right? You're a little kid, you see cranes, you hear noises. Do you have a plan to incorporate the kids or the faculty into your project, or are you going to put up big steel curtain walls and say, do not enter at risk of death? What's your plan there?
No, definitely. We will have monthly meetings for the general public, the staff, especially the parents of the kids. We can have meetings and we'll discuss coordination, especially traffic control, how we'll be handling traffic control and just safety hazards. Get the kids familiar that, construction can be very risky and dangerous, but, with our safety procedures, we can definitely keep a safer environment, and we want to keep everybody involved, especially the community. So we'll be having meetings and orientations.
Oh, and also, just to add on that, towards the end, on our previous experiences with Gulliver, when we were reaching the ending stages of construction, the idea was to have kids, especially the smart kids, which you said are very curious about what's going on inside the building, to have walk around with the proper PPE protection, as well as accompanied by our safety manager,
Right.
Jesus, to walk around certain areas of the building that they don't risk any type of injury, right? And that is an idea that we can definitely bring in to this project as well, and just coordination with the school, which would be great.
You guys have a site-specific safety plan in there. There's a bullet on a safety awards program that seems like there's some paid rewards, including paid time off for some of the craft. Would that be a cost to us as the ownership group, or is that something that you guys do internally with your team?
Oh, that's definitely, we do something with our team. We want to give feedback, and thank the subcontractors for following orders of safety. And I feel like this will definitely help them, motivate them to keep following safety procedures and just help them stay on task.
That's the second time. With the 2-minute warning, I have a question. Can you speak to your submittal process and kind of talk about how you manage that with the staff who's looking at that, and how you're striking that balance between timeline and quality of reviews?
Yes, so on our schedule, we'll have the submittal process is outlined for every important scope of work that we have. We've allocated around 15 days for review and approval of the architect. That also includes any mock-ups that we might have to do before actually delivering the final product on site. And the idea of that spacing is not to overwhelm the architect or our staff with many submittals at the same time, so we do keep that quality. And that is why we labeled it on the schedule as well, to just note that it's not all happening in one single period of time, but it's happening across, I think it's a 3-month or 4-month process, if I'm not wrong.
What do you guys see as the biggest risk on this job, and what mitigative measures have you put in place to overcome it?
I would say one of the biggest risks is definitely public protection. Like I stated earlier, because it's a school zone, there's children, there's staffs, pedestrians. So definitely our plan is, like I stated before, temporary fencing around our building. We're gonna have site security, monitoring, making sure there's no trespassing. Somebody that doesn't belong there, they shouldn't be entering from the very beginning. Same thing with our workers. We will be working with a software called Smart Barrel. Before workers entering, before registering or pinning in, they will scan their face and make sure they have proper PPE equipment on. If they do not have their proper PPE equipment on, they cannot begin work. And we can detect who is actually supposed to be in the project or not. Also, we will be having cameras around the project monitoring day and night to make sure that everything's secure and safe.
All right, with that, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Well done.